Hi and welcome to the second part of the video on combining data frames. Hi, I'm Raghavendra, an expert in AI, ML and data engineering. In this video, we're going to learn about combining data frames by performing SQL-like joins. So let's first import the pandas library. So I'm going to set these options to ensure that all the rows and all the columns of the pandas data frame are going to be displayed. By default, if your data frame is really large with many columns and many rows, when you try to print the entire data frame, only few rows and columns are going to be printed. I just set to max rows is none, max column is none, no restriction, print everything. So I'm going to read two CSV files using pd.read_CSV corresponding to the employees in an organization, another data frame corresponding to all the departments in an organization. I'm going to check the shape of the employees data frame, that is 107 rows and 11 columns. Department data frame has 27 rows and 4 columns. So I'm going to get a list of all the columns in the emp data frame. So here are the column names. So employee ID, first name, last name, email, phone number, hire date, job ID, so on, as well as the department ID, which stands for the department ID in which the employee is working. Here are the columns of the department data frame. So you have department ID, department name, manager ID, and the location ID. So this data frame is going to have the master list of all the departments. Let's preview the data sets by taking a head. So here are the few employee records, right? The first employee, Stephen King, is working in department 90. You have Nina Kochar is working in department 90. You have Bruce Ernst is working in department 60, and so on. So I get a feel of what are the contents, or what is the data within the data frame. Department.head. So these are all the departments. Department 10 is the administration department, and it's been managed by an employee with ID 200. Right? So likewise, I have for department ID 20 is being managed by, is the marketing department is managed by an employee with ID 201, and so on. Right? So we're going to solve the first query over here. We're going to figure out the names of employees and the names of the department in which they are working. So I'll have to subset some of the columns. So if you look at the employees data frame, I don't have the name of the department in this data frame. I just have the ID, department ID there. I don't have the ID or I don't have the name of the department in which they are working. So I only know Stephen King is working in department 90. But I really don't know the name of that particular department. So what I'll have to do is, I'll have to do a lookup for this ID into the master list of departments, that is the departments data frame, and figure out what exactly is the name mapped to that particular ID. So here I'm going to perform a type of join called as an inner join. So I'm going to use pd.merge. And the first data frame I'm going to specify is the employee data frame. The next is the DPT data frame. This emp data frame, I as well reference it as the data frame towards my left, and DPT data frame as the data frame I reference it to my right. The first and the second are left and the right. So the column on which I join is from the first data frame, that is the employee data frame, which is towards my left. I use the department ID column. The column on the employee data frame, which I'm going to use for, I'm going to do a lookup. And the right on, I'm going to specify the column from the right data frame or the second data frame what I have to pd.merge. So I specify a column from that table. So using this column in the employee data frame, I do a lookup to this column in the department data frame. And what type of join I perform? I perform inner join, which means that I'm going to fetch the rows which is going to be obtained by doing this lookup. So all those rows in both the data frames which doesn't satisfy this lookup, right? So lookup of emp.department ID or employees department ID, I do a lookup by using the department's department ID. So those rows which gets excluded, rows like employees not working in any department or departments not having any employees, I just exclude them out. So that's what your inner join means. And I am only subsetting columns, that is last name and department name, from this joined data frame. Yep. So here you have the name of the employee and the department name. So department name is not inherently present in the employee data frame, it's present in a different data frame. When not all your data is present in your data frame, you will have to get it from another data frame. So here we are doing a lookup into another data frame and fetching the values. Yep. Next is, we are going to find the next query. What we are going to solve is we are going to find the names of the departments and the names of the managers who are managing those departments. So in the departments data frame, I know that the administration department, which is department 10, is managed by an employee whose manager ID is 200. But I don't know who that employee, what is the name of that employee? I just know his manager ID. The manager ID is 200, means the ID of the employee who is managing that department. What I need to do here is I need to do a lookup to the employee data frame to figure out what exactly is the name. So say suppose here 200 maps to an employee, I'll have to do a lookup and figure out what his name is, right? So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm again going to do an inner join. So I say pd.merge department comma employee. So right on, I'm specifying the column from the right data frame or the second data frame. Left on specifies the column from the first data frame, that is manager ID. So I am looking up on the column from the manager ID in the department data frame. I do a lookup to the employee ID column in the employee data frame. So right on and left on references to the second data frame and the first data frame, which I have specified here to pd.merge. And there was another argument how I just ignore it here, because by default pd.merge performs inner joins. So I don't need to specify it, I just skip that. I am specifying only the department names and the last names over here, and I am renaming the columns, right? I'm saying last name which I'm getting is in fact here the head of the department who is headed by that particular person. So let me execute this. Yep. So I'm getting the department name and the last name of the manager who is managing the department, or the last name of the person who is heading that department. So administration department is being headed by Valen, marketing by Herstein, purchasing by Raffaelli, and so on. You have all the names, right? Please note, this output excludes all the departments which do not have any managers, right? There could be a possibility that it could be a new department and the department is yet to have a manager, right? And it also excludes those employees who are not managing departments. So I only have records here where I have a department for which I have a manager being allocated there, right? So that's what your inner join does. And by default, pd.merge is going to perform an inner join. The next query what we are going to do is we are going to perform aggregates as well as joins. We're going to combine them. Yeah. So for every department, I'm going to fetch the average salary, right? In the employees data frame, in the emp data frame, for every department, I would want to fetch the average salary there. But I don't want to print these department IDs, but instead I want department names. So what do is, step one, I'm going to perform the aggregate. For every department, I fetch the average salary. And to this aggregated data frame, what I do is I'm going to look up to this department data frame and I'm going to fetch their names and print it out. Yeah. So I'm going to do the aggregate and then I'm going to perform the join. So here what I do is I'm going to subset these two columns of interest. that is the column on which I want to aggregate, and the column on which, this is the column on which I want to group, and the column on which I want to apply the aggregate. I'm going to just subset only columns of interest over here. That is the column on which I group and the column on which I want to apply the aggregate, which is the mean function or the average. So then I do a group by on the department ID, which groups all my records of the employee data frame. Then I apply the mean, right? I don't specify on which column the mean to be applied. It will be by default applied on the numerical column which I have here. I have subsetted the salary column. Mean of salary is going to be computed. Then I remove out the index. Then I'm going to rename the columns. That is, I'm going to rename the salary as the department's average salary. I'm going to save it in a data frame called as df1. Here you have, right? So the department ID is 10 and this is the department's average salary. So now I don't want these department IDs. I actually want the names over there. So what I'll do is I'll take this df1 data frame and do a join with the department table or the department data frame, right? The column from the left data frame or the first data frame, that is department ID, right? The column in the second data frame or the right data frame, that is the department data frame, that is the department ID column, right? The DPT ID there. And I do an inner join. I don't have the how argument there. It's by default inner join. And then I am subsetting the department name and the department's average salary. Here you go. For every department, I am having the name being printed out and I have their average salary there. Next, I am trying out another type of join, that is the outer join. Could be either the left outer join or the right outer join, where I'm going to get the excluded rows either from the left data frame or the right data frames. First, we're going to learn about left outer join in solving this use case to find out the names of the employees and the names of their department in which they are working. So here in this use case, we're going to find out the names of the employees and the names of the department in which they are working. We are also going to include those employees who are not working in any department, right? So what we do is we're going to say pd.merge. Employee is the first data frame, the data frame towards the left, and DPT is the data frame towards the right. And left on the column on which from the first data frame, I specify the department ID in the left on argument. The column from the second data frame or the right data frame, that is the DPT ID. The join I want to perform is the left join because I want to include all the employees who are even not working in any department, right? I want these additional rows from the data frame which is towards the left, that is the first data frame, and I'm subsetting the last name and the department ID column. So here the output would comprise of all employees who are working in a department, the names of their departments and their last names, and also I'll have the names of employees who are not working in any department, and for their corresponding department names would have NA over there. Yep. So here you have all the employees and the department in which they are working. And here you can see this guy Grant is actually not working in any department. His record as well gets included as an outcome of left outer join. The next use case is we are going to find out the names of the employees and the names of the department in which they are working. We also would want to include the departments which do not have any employees. There could be possibly some departments, right, which do not have any employees, so they are still in the process of recruiting them. Yep. So here we are printing the entire list there. So here I'm going to pass employee data frame, the department data frame as in my left data frame and right data frame. The column from the left data frame which I'm used to look up, that is department ID. The column in the right data frame, that is the column DPT ID. So these are the two columns which I'm going to use for doing the lookup. How is the right join or the right outer join which I'm going to perform, because I want to include the records from the department data frame which do not have a corresponding employee record. Yeah. So then I'm going to subset last name and the department name over here. Yeah. So let's see the output. So you have the employees and the department names in which they are working. So you as well get the list of departments here, and their corresponding employees is NaN, means the value does not exist. So there are no employees in these departments. You are as well getting a list. So actually this gives me a master list of all the departments. So for each department, if there are employees, you are getting the names of the employees working in them. And also you are including, as a part of the right outer join, including those departments which do not have any employees working in them, and you see NaN values for their employee names for those departments, because these departments does not have, like say payroll doesn't have any employee, recruiting doesn't have any employee. So in this video, you have learned how to perform SQL-like joins to combine data frames. Thank you for watching this video.